Louis Riddick of the Mothership, ESPN NFL college football analyst. He'll be on the call. He's got James Madison and Oregon kickoff at 7:30 Eastern on TNT. All right, where do you want to start? You want to start on your game, or is there another question that you want to talk about?
No, hey man, you know me, Dan. I'll go wherever you want to go, but I can tell you this.
All right, for the people who don't believe in James Madison, you would
Yeah,
say what?
well, I would say this. Look, defensively, this football team can get after it. There's no question about that. I mean, obviously, you're going to look at their level of competition and go, well, who are the most high-powered offenses they played? What P4 offenses have they played? I mean, they played against Louisville. They lost to Louisville. They were in that game all the way though, until Louisville made a couple big plays down the stretch. They played Washington State. You know, that team is closely contested. But this is a football team. Look, they've got some guys on that side of the ball, especially on the defensive line, that linebacker, that can really get going. That can get going. Now, the problem is Oregon may be getting healthy in this football game, especially at wide receiver. If you're talking about guys like the Corian Moore coming back and Evan Stewart may be healthy in this game, Gary Bryant Jr., they're three of their most explosive players. I don't know if Dan Lanning plays them or not, but man, they are formidable. And then look, I mean, JMU can really run the football. Their quarterback, Alonzo Barnett, can really get after it. And if you look at some of the mobile quarterbacks that Oregon has played against, they've had some issues with them. I'm not saying that JMU is going to win this game. You know what it's out here, in Eugene, in this weather, this stadium, this football team, Dan Lanning, the number of five stars they got on the team, they're up against it. I get that. But that's why you play the games, man. That's why you play the games. And quite honestly, if you're going to have a group of five type of school go up against a heavyweight like Oregon, you're going to want the matchup to kind of look like this one, to where who knows what JMU can do? Who knows how long they can keep it close? We'll see what happens.
I don't know what you thought about Nick Saban's comments about basically saying,
Yeah.
JMU and Tulane are minor league baseball teams. They shouldn't be playing in the baseball playoffs. I was surprised because he's not at Alabama. He's sitting on the biggest platform in the sport.
Yeah.
JMU and Tulane didn't create this scenario. They took advantage of this scenario.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. It surprised me a little bit. Only because look, at one time, like Nick was coaching at Toledo. Nick knows what at Kent State. He knows what the long, hard road looks like. And because he traveled it. And he ascended to become the GOAT. And hats off to him. I was coached by him. I respect the hell out of him. Love the guys. I mean, all the good. It's the question. But look, yeah, I think if you're those schools, if you're Tulane and you're JMU, you're sitting there going, "Hey, wait a minute, man. We don't need to be catching strays from people when we're the ones who are just kind of doing what we need to do. And we didn't put ourselves in here. Y'all put us in here. So we're going to line up and play the game." Now, I get what Nick is saying. I get what he's saying when you're talking about when you look at teams that are being excluded from this. When you look at Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, Texas, let's just take those three in particular. We know that JMU and Tulane probably, 99 out of 100 times, those three schools are going to beat JMU or Tulane. We get that. And quite honestly, fans probably would rather see those teams in there. And that's all Nick is saying. So they need to figure out a way to kind of rectify that. If that means that group of five schools don't get included in this, although, I mean, I've heard people talk about the fact that those schools would litigate this thing to the very end and be like, "You can't do that. You can't keep us out of this. What are you talking about?" I mean, it is what it is. I mean, deal with it. If you're Texas and if you're Vanderbilt and if you're Notre Dame, then win your damn games. Don't worry about us. Don't try keeping us out of it. Just how about you just earn your way into it? But I get what he's saying.
talking to Louis Riddick of the Mothership. He'll be on the call. It'll be James Madison in Oregon, kickoff 7:30 Eastern. And couple other things. Yeah, I'm curious. Did you watch Thursday night game?
Did.
What do you think of Sam Darnold?
I'm glad you asked that because he talk about catching strays. Sam's been catching a bunch of them over the past couple of weeks, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So ever since he put his team before out in L.A., people have been like, "Well, there's the Sam we know. That's the Sam we're talking about. Where's JSN now? Where's all this feel good, talk that was surrounding him? That's not who Sam is." And then last night, he throws two picks, and you're sitting there going, late in the game, you're going, "Oh, boy, here we go again." But what did he do in crunch time? That's
Yeah.
what everyone wants to know. In crunch time, in a big game, national stage, at home, so much on the line in the NFC and in that division overall, what does he do? He delivers some fantastic throws, big time throws. One to Cooper Kupp, one to JSN, under pressure in the fourth quarter when they need him the most. And he delivers. He doesn't blink. Everyone else has blinked talking about him, but he hasn't blinked. And I love that. I think that kind of game last night could really, for him, as much as, when we've talked to him, he doesn't seem to ever doubt himself. He doesn't come off as someone who's sitting there having these real introspective conversations with himself and trying to find himself and all that BS. I think last night, though, even for him, he may have gone, see, I do have what it takes in order to rise up at the biggest moments. Now, he had a lot of help last night. He really did. And one of the biggest acquisitions this season is going to be the acquisition of Rashid Shaheed for Seattle. And you saw it last night. It was coming. You saw him, poking and prodding over the past couple of weeks as far as trying to find his groove. Then the punt return hits. He's a guy who he showed it last week late in the game against Indianapolis that was the guy that Sam went to. Kenneth Walker started going last night. The defense gets some big stops late in that game. They couldn't. They still haven't figured out what the hell Puka Nacua was doing to him. They still haven't figured that out. But I mean that which was incredible. Look, Sean McVay is a freaking. I love Sean McVay. The dude can scheme up your defense as well as anybody. And Matthew Stafford. You know what, Dan? Look, I'm not saying Sam Darnold's Matthew Stafford. All right. Remember, there was a long time, man, that we sat there and we doubted Matthew Stafford when he was in Detroit. People wanted to blame Stafford for not being able to lift what at the time was a franchise that wasn't very well run and lift them out of the gutter and put them on the pedestal, And then he goes to LA, gets around the right people. Next thing you know, he wins a Super Bowl, and now he's going to probably win the MVP. Like, I think with Sam's in the right spot right now. He's in the right spot with Coach McDonald's. He's in the right spot with Clint Kubiak. And last night could be a turning point game for him. I really do, and I hope it is.
I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago with Puka Nacua. There's football speed and there's track speed.
Yeah.
He has football speed.
No question.
I don't know what like Jerry Rice, like where you go. And I think there's similarities, and that he seems to always be fast enough. And if it's in his radius, he's catching it. So as a former defensive back, what would you be trying to do with him?
A lot of times what you saw last night with Puka is, look, I've been beating this drum since I started on TV back in 2013. Free access to wide receivers off the line of scrimmage, you're asking for it. You're asking to get your rear end ripped by teams that can scheme you up and instinctive wide receivers who are in lockstep with their quarterback. If you let them play 7-on-7, which a lot of the game in today, Phil, and I'm not the get off my lawn guy, I get it. The game has evolved. We're trying to protect players, all that. But a lot of the game now is geared towards allowing wide receivers and quarterbacks to put up Star Wars type numbers. One of the things that you still have at your disposal, though, as a defense, is the whole idea of the disruption of timing and rhythm of a passing. If you don't disrupt the timing and rhythm of the Rams passing game, Puka and Matthew Stafford, they meet every morning at like 4 or 5 a.m. The same thing he used to do with Cooper Kupp. And Puka is so damn instinctive, and as you're talking about, has such great functional strength and speed. And Matthew is this first ballot surefire Hall of Fame type caliber quarterback that if you allow them to just come off the line, use their motions and shifts, find the zone voids, and you're going to sit there and you don't disguise your coverage as well, or you have miscommunications in the back end, and you allow Puka to just work his magic in between the numbers in particular on those deep end cuts that you saw him running last night where he's catching and then he's off to the races, you're going to wind up giving up 225 yards receiving to a single guy. You've got to, you know who, and I know this is a dude who's always who's in the media more times than not now for the wrong reasons or for reasons that don't involve football, but Bill Belichick was the very best even at the, in the later moments of his career in New England, still understood that and made defenses execute those kinds of things or you wouldn't play for him. And that's how he was able to shut down some of the greatest offenses when he was a head coach and coordinator. Because he understands that that one thing is still something you have in your toolkit, and if you don't use it, you're just asking for it. And last night, that's how Puka went off like he did.
What if you were the GM of the Chiefs? How are you approaching next season?
Oh boy, yeah. Brett's a good friend of mine, Brett Veach, and I'll tell you what. First and foremost, I think you've got to get Patrick a bell cow running back. You've got to. You've got to get him a guy he can turn around and hand the ball to, and he's probably going to get you 4.5 on average, and maybe rip, you know, at least 2 to 3 plus 15 plus 20-yard runs a game. So you've got to do that. You've got to get him a true number one at wide receiver. You've got to get him an X that even when the team knows you're going to throw it to him, he can still make plays. You've got to get him that guy. And obviously the offensive line got banged up this season. You saw how bad it became. You saw how every single pass attempt became like playground ball for Patrick. And Patrick can't be the guy who's constantly running for his life and trying to, and obviously coming off that injury, you don't want him being the number one, number two rusher on the team. He just can't be. Offensive line has to get healthy. They have to get him a running back. They have to get him a true number one. What's the succession plan for Travis Kelce at tight end? That's a lot.
You're expecting him to retire?
Even if he doesn't, you still need more juice at that position. As good as he is, still need someone who, from a physical perspective, really does inject fear into a defense in that area, that 15 to 20-yard area between the numbers, because this guy is such a unique guy. Look, Travis is he's the greatest. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
You think he's the best tight end of all time?
I mean, the numbers say he is.
Well, look, Tony Gonzalez.
I played against Tony. I didn't play against Gronk, but I played against Tony, and Tony was damn near uncoverable. I played against Keith Jackson when, he had just left Philly and went to Miami, and Marino was throwing him passes. I know there's some really, really good tight ends that have played in this league, man. But Travis is right there. He's right at the very top.
Have fun tonight. Hopefully we get a competitive game for a while. And
JMU, I think we will.
Yeah, hangs in there. Kickoff at 7:30 Eastern on TNT. Lewis, thank you.
Of course, bud.
Yeah, safe travels. Happy holidays to you.
Thanks a lot, as always.
That's Lewis Riddick of the Mothership on the call. So he's got JMU and Oregon. That atmosphere, all you can hope is you surprise him.